another comment was made that something like, "Look, this room is so heavy." If you try to make a joke about the statement he made, somebody to my right, who I believe was Ken Myers, chuckled, laughed, and he said, "What are you gay?" And about that time, I had Commander Monitor was sitting one person over between me and him to my left. I didn't make any statements. I texted him, and I think I said something. I think I said something to the effect of, or I texted something of what the WTH or WTF even about the comment.
Okay. So you talked with Commander Minor after the staff meeting about what happened?
Yes, I don't know who called him. I might have called him. We had a phone conversation. I was driving home after the meeting, and I believe he was driving home as well.
Okay. And generally speaking, I know we're talking months later now, but generally speaking, what was the topic or tenor of that conversation?
I'm not understanding your question.
What did you and Commander Minor talk about?
Oh, that
on drive?
conversation.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know how to handle it when it actually occurred. I knew what I wanted to do, and I talked about it in my IA investigation and my transcripts, and even a document that 9-page document that I authored and presented in the IA the same day as I had my IA hearing, that was July 2nd. The conversation was about the fact that I probably should have, and I felt like we should have said something right then and there. I have various reasons to feel that kind of behavior, many reasons that kind of comment or behavior, especially someone held to such a higher standard as an assistant chief in our community, that they would say something like that. So I remember some of the comments to Commander Minor were, I felt bad, I felt a little ashamed that I didn't speak up immediately and say something. However, the conversation was that I felt that it would not go well for me. I think I had, 4 or 5 years remaining here at the time. So I didn't say anything. And Commander Minor said that he was going to wind up having a conversation with the Assistant Chief Slavin at some point later. I made a comment, it's all documented too, that I thought that, I still said I wish I would have done something sooner and immediately, because I didn't think it would be as impactful for the fact that I didn't say something immediately.
Did Commander Minor let you know that he was going to bring this up to additional people in Commander Minor's chain of command?
I can't recall exactly who we talked about, but I do remember him saying he was going to talk to Assistant Chief Slavin at some point.
At some point, did you learn that Commander Minor talked to Chief Pop about this issue?
Yes, I did.
Tell me about that conversation, or what did you learn about that?
I just know that it was had, the conversation was had. I can't really recall any details about what the statements. I mean, for me, Commander Minor not only is my good friend, but he's my boss at the time. He was the commander of the section, so any conversation I was having with him was also in the form of, basically our policy says if I or anybody finds out something that's HR related or could be offensive, or what we call our AR 333 violations, we need to bring that to the next person. So I had every reason to believe that if we didn't talk about it, that he was going to have a conversation with his next supervisor.
And besides Commander Minor, did you talk with other people that were at the staff meeting about what had occurred?
The only person I believe was there that I spoke about this with would be sometime later. I could not give you a date. I don't even remember documenting it, but there was a Lieutenant Larry Marmy was there. We talked about it. I don't remember too much of the details. I'm trying to go over everybody that's in that room, and I don't believe I talked other than Commander Minor, Lieutenant Marmy. Sometime later, I think it was after the notice of claim was filed, somebody called me from that room. I believe they read the notice of claim and they felt uncomfortable. I remember I was on an accident scene at the time, and I told them that we couldn't talk to them, didn't want to talk to them about the matter. I was the only other person.
So did anyone else at the meeting express concern about what had happened, or was this generally a topic of conversation around the department?
I think it was just general conversation at this point. I didn't have a lot of conversation, almost zero conversation with people in the room. So I didn't have conversation appropriate.
Okay. Now, eventually I'm going to fast forward because, again, the board has heard a lot of information. I want to talk to you about your understanding of the standard at internal affairs in Scottsdale. Is it your understanding that everyone in Scottsdale is expected to provide honest and truthful answers when they talk to internal affairs?
Absolutely.
Is that the same standard as to whether you're a subject of an investigation or a witness for an investigation?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I think just a moment ago you talked about concerns about how this would affect you. Are you talking about potential retaliation?
Yes, absolutely.
Why were you concerned about that?
Well, if you want to look at it as I'm calling out something pretty important, it's basically, in my opinion, some of the laws say differently possibly, but it's a whistleblower type situation where I'm expecting bad behavior to be basically addressed. In this agency, I've seen it where almost everybody, but many people are afraid to speak out and actually do something or say something because it could be you would be fearful that you may not get the next promotion or the next job or an assignment. So these things have been said to me by people. It's not just something I think occurs, especially through this whole situation since we'll go with May 9th of 19. Anybody that's talked to me about this throughout this whole period has said to me, I wish I could help, I wish I could do something. I only have 5 years left or whatever their time frame was, they would speak up about it. Retaliation is, I've learned a lot about retaliation. I feel I've been experiencing it since June 19. And that was the culture, I guess. That's what honestly, I feel a lot of policing in America has the same problems. It's kind of a cultural thing maybe where people are afraid to speak up. So that's why.
I'm going to switch gears because obviously I'm familiar with your IA interview and the stuff that you put together. Sitting here today, if you were, and I think you've testified that you were offended by the comments, right, that were made?
Yes, and I told you and others this before, I was offended more so by the behaviors of our chief and the assistant chief. In fact, that 5 weeks or so went by and nothing had happened. Same with HR. This very minute, nobody from HR has ever contacted me and said, are you okay, or are you offended, or are you... And I had a meeting directly face-to-face with Donna Brown on March 11th, the director of HR. Not a word, not a bit of help. As a matter of fact, that's when she first saw the 9-page document. Somehow I gave it to her, no one else did. So I know I went off on a tangent, so you may have to re-ask that question, but...
No, I think that was responsive, and I'm going to ask you kind of a follow-up and specific question. So if you had been asked by IA, instead of being generally offended, if you were asked if you were directly offended by the comments that was made at the meeting, what would your answer be?
Well, I don't remember ever being asked that, and I know that I said things in the transcript on tape that the comment, the actions by the chief were offensive. Having months and months to go over this in my head, like I said, the behavior and the lack of accountability was offensive to me. But I take it as we have two parts to our AR-333, as I understand it, part 1 and part 2. So over all this time of thinking, what I think that means is, are you somebody of diversity or difference, and are you suffering directly from somebody attacking you or making a point, in other words, picking on you because, say, you're a LGBTQ member in the meeting. So I was offended, yes, I was offended by pretty much all of this, and I'm still pretty much offended by how it's played out.
But if you were asked specifically, Lieutenant Bonnet, at this meeting, were you directly offended? Would you say that you were directly offended or you were only generally offended?
I don't know how to answer. It's just offensive. I have people in my family and friends that are in the LGBT community, so yeah, I'm offended.
Okay. So directly, even if you're not clear on it, it changes the meaning potentially?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I think so. So yeah, I guess I'm directly offended because I'm still sitting here, still involved in the same thing that happened way back on May 19th. So.
Okay. But sitting here today too, based off of other conversations that you've had with members of the Scottsdale Police Department, you're aware of others who were generally offended by the comment as well, right?
Yes, I know of 2 people that were in the meeting that day, and I know of a lot more people that are offended, for all the conversations and things that have had, happened over a year and a half now. So yes, there are people that are offended, so probably know directly.
Okay. Give me 1 second. in your mind, when I was asking you these questions, when I started to ask you about this concept of like directly offended, does that confuse the issue of what I'm asking, in your opinion?
Yes, it does, because I don't necessarily understand what the difference between directly and indirectly. If you look at our policies, it's just basically that is a part two, basically saying anything, whether it's anything reference to tolerance to people's differences. And I know I've said this in my interview, and I've said it in writing. I don't see a difference between using the N-word or a gay slur or something like that. So directly offensive, yes. Offended, yes. It's not a joke, it's not funny, it's just, I expect more, I'm disappointed, so yeah.
Sitting here today, do you think that Commander Minor acted with integrity as it relates to this situation?
100%.
Why do you say that?
Because he, not only in my opinion, and things I've seen and now come out in the investigation, not only did he do his job for me, not only that, but he supported me as a friend, and he went, in my opinion, above and beyond by going to the actual person who made the statement and having that conversation. That's not something he had to do. His next job would be to go to his boss at the time, which would have been Assistant Chief of Operations.
And it's your understanding that he did that, right?
Yes.
That's all I have for now. I might have some questions later.
Cross-examination, understand?
Good morning, Lieutenant Bonnet.
Good morning.
Just so you know, my name is Diana Day, and I'm with the City Attorney's Office.
Yes.
I have just a very few questions for you. First of all, I noticed Mr. Serbalik asked you if you were directly offended, and you responded by asking him to clarify his question. Would that be a fair characterization of your testimony?
Yes, through that whole conversation, yes, he provides some clarifications.
Did you directly hear Chief Slavin's comments in the meeting?
Yes, I directly heard.
And you were offended by the comments, is that right?
Yes.
You've already testified, I believe, that you were close personal friends with Commander Minor, not just his subordinate supervisor.
No, absolutely.
I just want to clarify a few details. When you texted Commander Minor, what the F or what the heck,
Yes.
during the meeting, well, let me just ask, was that during the meeting itself that you actually sent that text message?
Yes, it was.
Did you send a text message to anybody else at the meeting?
Just Commander Minor.
Would it be fair to say that Commander Minor was pretty much your confidant and sounding board throughout this process?
That's a yes.
After the meeting, I've heard that you and Commander Minor spoke on the way home, and I just wanted to know, were you both driving home in your respective cars talking on cell phones?
Yes.
Okay. Did you talk the entire time that you were driving home?
The drive is only about 10 minutes. I don't recall.
But you did speak to Commander Minor as soon as the meeting ended, and you got in your car and made a phone call. Would that be fair?
This is a long time ago, but that's what I remember. Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Was your conversation mostly about those comments that you had heard from Chief Slavin?
Yes, mostly, yes.
At any point in that conversation, did you laugh about the comments?
No, I don't remember any of that.
Would it be fair to say that you were shocked or outraged or offended or angry, and that was your emotional tone on that phone call with Commander Minor?
No, I wouldn't say. Shocked, yes. Outraged, angry.
Okay.
The shock had already ended. This was a conversation. It was more about why.
Sir, make sure you speak up, remember, the microphone might pick you up for the record, but I'm having trouble hearing you. So just talk loud.
Got it?
It's been characterized that your conversation with Commander Minor was you raising a concern about Chief Slavin under AR 333. And would you agree that that's a fair way to characterize your conversation?
Yes, actually, he wrote down top of the issue.
Okay. And did you follow up with Commander Minor to find out what was the status of your complaint or what was happening about it?
I'm sure there was conversation, but I don't remember formal or like I went to others as well, my post representative. sometime through that time frame. So I was following up probably more with my close rep, and I don't remember if I had an attorney by that time. I don't remember any formal conversation with Commander Minor.
During any of those conversations, ever, between you and Commander Minor, have you laughed about those comments?
No, no.
Thank you, those are all the questions I have.
Redirect.
None unless the board has
Does
questions.
Vice Chair Scoggin have any questions? Just one. Hi, Lieutenant.
I,
When you were aware that Aaron Minor went to Assistant Chief Pop the next day following the meeting, what action did you expect would take place?
I have to answer that by saying, I don't think I was expecting or reading what Chief Pop was gonna do. I don't remember my feeling at the time. My expectation would be the same level of I'm held to with one of my employees, or even if it's somebody, third party that I knew about, I need to take action and need to at least, manage the risk for the city and perception of what's going on, and then bring it to the next person's attention. I can only tell you that what I remember is my upset or concern, and it's documented, and that's what bothers me the most about this, that it was being hidden, and it wasn't being addressed, and nothing was being done about it. So I don't remember what I expected from Chief Pop directly, but I know after 5 or 6 weeks, I was pretty, I was shocked at about that time, that nothing had happened, and about that time was when also the president came to me and said that others had also made a similar complaint, and he wanted to move forward with the complaint to Chief Rothwell, and asked me for the names of the people in the meeting. To answer your question, I don't remember a specific thought about Chief Pop and what he's going to do.
That's all I have, thank you. I have no questions. Does Bill have any follow-up?
Just one or two off of what the vice chair said. When you reported, so I remember the notes that you took, and they're in the exhibits actually, related to the notes on the agenda. When you reported this out to Commander Minor, you said that you did it both as a friend and as subordinate, correct?
Yes.
At that point, based off of the nature of the comments and your understanding of AR 333, did you expect that this would actually trigger a AR 333 investigation?
Immediately would be my expectation, yes.
And then, at some point shortly after that, did Commander Minor tell you, hey, there's not going to be an AR 333 investigation, or did you just figure that out because you weren't brought in for an interview?
No, there had been conversation, I guess it was kind of, confidential between myself and I'll name Damian Mendoza, the president of OLSA. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I asked him to hold on to it. Here's what happened, here's what I think, here's what I'm thinking. And I feel like I was relying on Commander Minor as much as I was on the OLSA president at that time. And that's kind of the route I took, and it was a lot of conversation back and forth. But there was a period where I was told that a lot of things, which you probably already read or know about, but that there was just a verbal counseling, and pretty much, and I have some of that documented, I have 2 binders of all this information. It was a text message or something from Damian that Chief Rothwell had already counseled, which concerned and puzzled me, because one of the statements Chief Rothwell made to Damian, supposedly when Damian brought it to his attention, was, what do you want me to do? And Damian supposedly said, I want you to be fair. And then Chief Rothwell said that he had no idea what Rich Slavin had said. So I was communicating mostly with Damian. Was I relaying this to Commander Minor, my boss? I'm sure I was. I just don't remember all of it.
But sitting here now, and at some point before this, you did become aware that Commander Minor did actually make an AR 333 complaint to POP, both on his behalf and on yours, correct?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm more familiar with the POLSA side of it, because I believe it was Damian Mendoza who actually made the complaint. So I know that Commander Minor did speak with Chief Pop, and that should initiate something through human resources. That's what we're asked to do.
And that's because that initial complaint that you filed the day of the meeting didn't cause an investigation, right?
Yes, that's why after 5 or 6 weeks, I was not happy that nothing had been done. And I remember saying, so if I just get to write an apology letter now, which I thought was not even a good apology because of the last sentence. You and I have gone over this, it's documented. And then that's the end of it. That's kind of what seemed to be going on. That wasn't something.
And then the last question that I have for you for now, just to clarify this, I think it was your testimony that you've actually gotten more mad about this over time, that because time passed and nothing was happening and the apology came out, there was no interview. By the time you interviewed six weeks later, is it fair to say that you were more upset about the failure to follow policy?
I'm upset to this day, so yes, it's fair.
That's all I have.
I have no questions.
May the witness speak, please.
Yes.
Lieutenant Barnett, although maybe the last witness, it's almost possible not the last witness, the appellant, there may be others, so we just ask that you not speak to anyone about your testimony today. This matter should be concluded this evening. So at that point, you just courtesy in case someone asks you something, and you talk to someone, maybe call that as well.
Yes, I completely understand.
Thank you. Have a nice day, and really appreciate your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sabal, ready for your next witness?
Yes, Commander Minor.
Everyone, please stand. You see it's 11 o'clock, and 11 o'clock is Lieutenant Meyer, on our regular schedule, so we'll just wait